Welcome to episode 119 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly, the home of the null. I'm your host, Teddy, and joining me as always, a man who all greatly enjoy his suffering, especially those named lunacy. Gaz. Say hi, Gaz.
Hi, guys.
If that wasn't clear, that was a special request.
Oh, was it? Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw that going up in the Discord. So, no, I'm glad that everybody enjoys my misery because, I sacrifice one to save thousands or entertain thousands or something like that.
Look, I was going to say that it's a bit harsh to think that everyone's enjoying the misery. I don't, but then I do. And I think that I couldn't lie my way through. I don't want to lie to you. And I think it's really important that we don't start lying to each other.
That's a good point.
It brings a smile to my face.
It's probably, yeah. Like, I mean, this is literally the purpose of the channel, right? Was to embrace the fact that we are horrible at rolling.
Some more than
Interestingly
others.
enough, interestingly enough, I actually think dice-wise, I'm generally better than average luck-wise. But for some reason, this one card game, this one card deck is literally like, it just cocks me. So, yeah, who knows?
We've given you a fresh AMD. It's a brand new AMD, like a second edition AMD, brand new sleeves. Phil's been cutting it and all that. And yeah, you still got the magic.
Still got the magic. Still managed to do whatever I can to, and it's only really on those big hits as well, right? Like it just saves itself up. So
because you talk about it, you amp it up, you know, and then it has to. The climax is right there, right?
Well, yeah. For people who haven't seen the playthrough, I think leading into it, it was and after it came out. So basically, I was doing an attack. It was a big attack. And it would have been cool to hit. But I drew my null, right? And we're talking about, there's a 100% chance going to null. And then I did, and it was funny. And afterwards, and Phil's like, why do you keep talking about it? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to do like the reverse of a hex, like someone's kicking for goal or sporting events. It's like, oh, he's definitely going to kick this, or he's definitely going to, score from here. And then they absolutely shank it. I'm trying to do the opposite, where if I'm like, 100% chance to miss here, then it'll be like anything but it's not. It's like also, yeah. So,
well, maybe it's a consistency thing. Like you've got to stick at it. You can't just turn it around in a day, right? You've got to every week in, week out, still do the 100% call, probably miss again. We laugh, the crowd cheers, Gaz gets upset, but by the 50th scenario, it no longer works and you break it.
Haven't I been doing it for like 18 months? How much longer do I have to do it?
That's my question. Like, how much life does this have left in it?
Yeah, honestly, I thought after a while it would go away, but it doesn't, so.
Well, we were talking about episode 2 of our playthrough, which has gone up and went up nice and early. And the reason it was because it was such a fun session. It was amazing. I remember messaging you and Phil on Discord when I was about to say when I got home. And just basically said, hey guys, that was a lot of fun. Right? Yeah. I was like, that was a lot of fun. And the next day I was like, I really am looking forward to editing it. And I just basically, my baby woke me up and I was like, cool, let's do this. And I edited the crap out of it and got it out nice and early. And look, let's not get used to that. It may happen every now and then. Look, you can almost gauge how good the episode's going to be based on how early it comes out. If you see it on Friday night, or our Friday night, everyone else's Thursday morning. Well, I'm just basically saying that's just our American listeners, but no, everyone. Yeah, you'll get an idea of what to expect.
You can't say that, Daddy. Now no one's going to listen to it or watch it if it comes out after Tuesday.
No, because they'll want to see why it was bad.
So it's a train wreck, right? Like, yeah, that's
fair. It's good for us, and then good for the client, good for the customer.
Good for the customer. Yeah, no, it was a very fun session. It's a good dynamic, and I'm enjoying the freshness of Haven. Again,
it's got a good stank again.
Which is, I mean, considering we replayed scenario 2, so we were coming back to it. There was every chance that it was like, oh no, not this again. But I think and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think because it was a challenging scenario, we're still learning everything. We're still made of basically wet paper. Um, and it still has that new sticker that that the film, the sticker when you buy some kind of like a phone, and it's still that the game still has that on it basically. So everything
Mm.
feels super fresh. It didn't really feel that bad.
Yeah. I wonder how long that'll last, actually. Usually it was about
Yeah, I
scenario
look
14 in Frosthaven, I think.
I think like yeah, in about 2 or 3 weeks, or like in like a month, if we fail a scenario and we have to replay it, especially if it's like a really gross one, like just heaps of oozes or black imps or something like that, where you just nah, this is a grind. That one's gonna suck. That that playthrough is coming out on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's the one that gets heavily edited into, oh, look what happened. We won. Gaz crit 15 times in a row right at the end. On today's
Uh,
episode,
yeah.
following our dirt sheet, which for new listeners is like behind the scenes kind of thing, any news from our end, we call it a dirt sheet. We've got our dirt mail, dirt bag mail coming up. We cover and recap scenario 2 Runius Crypt, which is what we played twice. We're doing our amDirt Diaries, any updates on any of the characters that you and I are playing, and a topic at the end, which I've labeled emotional check marks. So thank you, Stu, for that idea. All right, dirt sheet. So on the dirt sheet, merc packs, they've arrived. And this was an announcement quite a while back where I believe Cephalfair said that we've got 4 mercenary packs. I don't remember whether they were sold individually or as a pack, because I bought them as a pack, like all 4. There were at
Because you
least
just
4 of
mashed
them.
the buy button until everything was purchased.
Yeah, and it was a cool idea. Now, you and I aren't the most knowledgeable when it comes to these things, but it's almost like they grabbed key players or characters from the different various games, and they made a character and designed a character around that particular person that you can then implement into any of the Haven games. More so the newer system with Frosthaven and Gloomhaven Second Edition, as they're the most up to date in terms of their rule set. And yeah, they've just hit our shores. We got ours yesterday. I haven't opened them, and very excited to like. I knew that they were going to arrive at some stage, and I think someone in a comment mentioned, when are you going to unbox them? And I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm not in a rush, right? Gloomhaven Second Edition is still all new to me. Well, the majority of it's new to me, so I'm not in a rush. But if enough people kick up a stink, and then I think Dwarf jumped in and someone else jumped in, and a few people, there was a mini stink, but the stink was not enough to make me think that we need to unbox them. Okay. It has resulted in me creating another channel in our Discord called No Daddy and No Gas,
Yep.
and I left it to Dwarf and the rest, our little Discord community, to basically decide when they think. And look, they could just say unbox it next week, and then I'll probably go, is that enough of a stink? But if they can come up with some cool milestones, like one of the characters is Hale, and I know that character
Mm.
from the original Gloomhaven vaguely. That when we meet Hale or when she dies, I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. I don't know if she actually does. But when something happens, like when we meet Hale, is when we unbox Hale. Now, I don't
Yeah.
know if we're going to implement these mercs into our thing. I don't have an intention to play them because everything's so new and exciting to me, but you may be interested because you've seen a lot more.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I'd love to unbox them because I'd love to see what they have done. It's like I don't know the design timeline. Like I assume these were done post Frosthaven in the 2.0 world, right? Not. I mean, potentially ideas that Isaac and other designers and stuff like that just had in the background and came out with. But we have this evolution of the classes being designed for first edition Gloomhaven, and they all part of that game and introduced everyone. And then you had the evolution. But I suppose you went through Crimson Scales with the unofficial thing and Jaws of the Lion and stuff like that, which kind of evolved things a bit more. But then you had essentially from, I guess, proper releases is Frosthaven, right?
Mm-mm.
And the classes in Frosthaven were clearly there was a different design kind of lens on those than Gloomhaven because they'd learned so much. And I thought for the majority, like all the Frosthaven classes had their shtick was really cool. They all felt unique. And while some of them were more powerful than others, I don't think there was any just trash characters were like, that one's no good. So I'm fascinated to see these four be designed after all that, right? Because I know that the second edition, like Gloomhaven second edition characters have been redesigned, but I guess they probably couldn't just drastically overhaul stuff. This is a soundbite that when we unbox some random character in like 8 weeks time and they've drastically overhauled it. Like I know that they would have made changes, but like these are brand new like characters with a whole fresh idea. You
Correct.
know,
Yeah.
like you couldn't take the Tinkerer and go, "Oh, we're gonna make it do formations now," right?
No.
Because that would just, you know, like this drastically different thing where you go, "Oh, this character didn't even touch on these things, and now they shoot fire everywhere." So
Mm.
these are characters that they can really just do whatever they want with, and they're not part of any official game, so they kind of like get to be a little bit like experimental.
Yeah.
You know, if people don't like them, then it's not in a core game, so it doesn't
No.
really matter.
No.
Whereas if
It's not
they're
a starter
great,
or anything like that. Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of like a free hit, and I love the idea of a designer having a free hit because you never know what they could come up with, and it could be amazing, right? Like, it could be like a just, "Wow, this is such a cool design idea and looks like a lot of fun to play." And that's why I'm keen to see them.
I'm quite surprised that it's taken this long for them to actually release characters separate to the actual games, because a lot of people mix and match their Jaws of the Lion characters into Frosthaven, and the questions get asked, you know, do these characters work in this game? Can I transfer these into here? And even in the rule books are now evolving to the stage where they're like, you can bring, I think it was Frosthaven, you can bring your Gloomhaven, you know, characters in, make these changes, or you know, you may find balance issues or whatever, bring these items along with you, things like that. But to actually go out and just go, here some, you know, four mercs, who aren't just like pulled out of, you know, a bot, right? They're actual characters, right? That is cool, especially if you've been lucky enough to sit through multiple campaigns of all those different games, right? We can appreciate Maya Souther because she's the most recent one that we've, you know, been involved with through Frosthaven. And
Yeah.
that's the person I'm most interested in because of that reason, right? Which is really cool. Halo, I have no idea. For some reason, I keep thinking of Crystal Maiden from Dota, and I don't know how that makes me feel. And then you've got there's actually a comment on our last podcast from Big Chief, who actually said something really interesting that I wanted to bring up with you, and said, my group played all the way through Forgotten Circles. So it was about Forgotten Circles because we brought that up last week. My whole group agreed that they went way off the deep end, and sorry, the text is a bit small, way off the deep end with the scenario design. And the worst part of all of it is that the diviner, which we don't know nothing about, I don't know if you know anything about it, was never allowed to exhaust. So if she did, the scenario was lost. So the scenarios were designed around this character. As the person playing diviner, that really affected my enjoyment negatively, as it meant I always had to play super safe / risk adverse, and I ended up replaying the diviner later on in a few one-off Gloomhaven and Frosthaven scenarios and had a blast. I think it's it's a severely underrated class because it's not a big DPS until very high level. And hearing all that now makes sense when I talk about, like when we talked about, I think one of the mercs is, you know, the diviner. Well, it couldn't be because it was so heavily designed around Forgotten Circles and the campaign, right? That spin-off campaign, that they couldn't just make it into a character. But they've obviously built, I think it's Cassandra or something, the character based around the idea of what the diviner does, but then it's been tweaked or overhauled or something like that, which is really cool. But that whole process has now helped me understand what's going on there. And, you know, about that. I still don't know what the character does, other than it can't exhaust in an expansion that no one liked. But, you know.
Whoa, for shots fired. It's yeah, it is interesting because and that's what I mean. Like it's a world where both Gloomhaven and Frosthaven exist, and even Gloomhaven 2.0, like second edition, or probably existed when they started coming up with the ideas of these. So they already had all of that out there. And it's interesting, something you mentioned earlier. You're surprised that it's kind of taken this long for these type of things to come out. I kind of think that if it was a digital product, right, like first, right, similar to they do with like, Warhammer Total War and stuff like that, you would have got the base classes, and then every 3 months you'd have some kind of DLC pack, and they would add in a new character and add in a new character. Obviously, very clunky to do with a physical product. Like, yes, I think they had one, didn't they? That was like a print and play character. Wasn't
I
there
have
one for
no idea.
Gloomhaven 1.0?
Oh, are we talking about
I
the Envelope X one?
Yeah, yeah. Or was
So
that
even
in
that I'm not
Gloomhaven?
even that I'm not 100% sure how that worked.
Yeah. But like that's how you do it, right? Like because you're not selling a thing where people are going to come in constantly, and you don't want this development cycle where you've got to release a new thing every 3 months.
Mm.
So it becomes a bit weird because all the components that go with it. So yeah, it's cool that they're doing this, and I hope they do more of it, right? Like I
I
hope
think
that
that
when we get
will, yeah.
next Haven, there is other packs as well to do this, because I feel like I don't know, it can refresh people's playthrough of 2.0.
Yeah, they could definitely continue to do this in like they can bring in Captain Olmsted, they can bring in Orm, they can bring in Jexera, these kind of key characters and keep adding stuff. It's almost like Marvel Rivals or something when they keep bringing in new characters from the MCU, right? It's just,
Mm.
yeah, keep building the universe, keep adding to the lore. And you've got an endless amount of things, and people like me who just go, well, now I need to buy that.
That's true. One thing that hasn't arrived yet, though, is the minis.
Yeah, no. Look, I think that they won't anytime soon.
That's what everyone said, yeah. Which I mean is fine. Like there's obviously a lot, like printing heaps of minis is very different to what they normally do in regards to that, and it's obviously not a priority, which is fine. I just want to paint them, right?
Yeah, but how long would it take you to paint, I don't know, 120 minis?
Well, I mean, this is part of the problem is that I'm very amateur when it comes to my painting, and I have not really done any batch painting before because I haven't painted any tabletop games. Like, so I've been doing all these set pieces, which is taking ages. But if I'm doing a bunch of skeletons or a bunch of black imps, then I probably don't care as much, right? Like, one particular black imp not looking amazing isn't going to stand out.
Yeah,
So.
okay. I would want you to make them slightly different from each other so that they all had different personalities.
Well, it depends. I haven't even seen the sculpts. Like, I mean, I'm going into this. I keep asking people in our Discord without doing any research on my own. But I assume that the sculpts will be different, like different poses at least.
No idea. I'd never assume.
Mm. No, I like assuming because
What about
it
the
gets makes
quality,
it
right? Do you reckon they'll stick with the starter 6 that we've seen so far quality? Have
Yeah,
you
I don't know. Mhm.
break the fourth wall for a second?
Yeah.
You've got the minis
Yeah.
for all the characters, right? In preparation for when we unlock them and paint them and all that. Have you looked at any of the others just to check to see whether or not like they're better or
No. Oh, so I've opened the three that we are going to unlock through our PQs.
oh yeah.
So I've seen them. And no, they're about the same. There's nothing like the starter minis are fine.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that like uh Games Workshop set a really hard bar for minis, but they also charge $30 per individual one little dude. So I mean, if you do that, Gloomhaven suddenly costs like $1,500 to get like the 18 classes plus the game, right? And no one's paying that. So
No.
I think for what the game needs to be, the minis are good quality.
Yeah.
And if someone who is better at painting than me can probably bring out the detail more.
It's a
I
good point.
struggle a bit because I'm not great, so I need the detail to be like really, really clear, and that's why it's harder for me. But I'm sure if I gave them to a couple of our friends who are really good at painting and said, "Hey, paint this," it'll come back and be like, "Holy shit! Like
Well,
this is
we're
a
not
masterpiece."
traditionally mini collectors and painters and all that kind of stuff. So I'm only echoing the sentiment from what other people are saying. On Reddit where people are panning the quality on this and that. I don't see it. I'm not painting them. I don't really care. But this is just obviously things that I observe. And people, I mean, they
That's
can't
fair.
be expecting, like you said, Games Workshop style But if you put a Games
Yeah,
Workshop one
everyone's
next to another one, would I notice the difference? Probably, but
yes,
how
you're
much?
100%. You would know the
Oh,
difference. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and there are other companies as well who put the focus on minis, right? Like there are other companies who their thing is minis and components and not a massive 2 year spanning campaign style game. It's like a area control map and make the minis look really cool because you're going to be seeing them all the time.
Mm.
Dead by Daylight, right? We played. Is that what it's called? Dead by
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Like the minis in that are really cool, but there's not many of them, so it's not like a big deal, and there's also not many other components, so it is what it is. So yeah, I think for what they needed to do, I don't know. I think the minis are what you need if you want to paint them. And as I said, I've seen some like the Frosthaven ones, especially, but I've seen some really cool painted minis that pop up on like the subreddit and the Haven Discord. Um,
Yeah, you're right.
so
I think I've seen on the subreddit the minis that have gone up there, and sometimes I'm just blown away with the quality of what people have been able to pull out. And like you say, the minis look completely different. Like the details that you wouldn't normally notice when they're like grayscale, all of a sudden everything's popping. So yeah,
yeah,
big kudos to people who can do that and
and I
do it
just bought
well.
some new paintbrushes, so maybe mine will get better.
Oh, of course they will. By the end of the Frosthaven and Gloomhaven ones, dude, you're gonna be like insane. You're gonna be that person.
Well, actually, just quickly on that, talking about painting, a little hobby section. So people can probably skip forward a minute if they don't care about this. But there was someone that just posted onto the Reddit, I don't know, within the last week, saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna start painting for the first time. Any advice?" And then it was very constructive, right? Like there was even I went through there. I'm like, "Oh, that's a really good idea. I might start doing that." Even though I've painted almost all the Frosthaven minis, a bunch of the Crimson Scales on the start on these. But as I said, I'm pretty new to the whole thing still in amount, right? And I'm all self-taught off the internet. Um, yeah, like the people are jumping into this, and it's very tricky because um as someone who was brand new to doing all this stuff when I started this, like I'd painted maybe less than 10 minis and not very well outside of before this. It's very daunting because you're painting set pieces. So like if you're playing a tabletop game like a Warhammer or anything really where there's like rank and file units, you paint a bunch of orcs or elves or whatever, and you're painting 100 of them. And even if you're painting one unit or space marines, whatever, doesn't matter. There's a bunch of them, and you paint them all, and so you get more repetition. But realistically,
Mm.
even painting most of the Frosthaven minis, a chunk of the Crimson Scales ones, and now like the starters for um, Gloomhaven, I've still probably that's less than 30 minis,
Yeah, it's fair.
right? And that's the thing that's really challenging. I think coming into paint them being new is that one thing I learned, and obviously I read it and it makes sense. Everyone's like, yeah, of course, this makes sense. You just have to paint more minis to get better at painting.
Yeah.
And I I struggled with that because I picked them up. I'm like, oh, I don't want to ruin this one. Um, and literally the process I go through every time I paint it is that like I prime it and then I just start ruining it until it's like looks better than it does when it started. It's just this system. So yeah, shout out to anyone who has done it and gone through that process. But if you're new to painting, give it a crack. But like it is tricky. And I think in my post and reply, I would just say, just get a bunch of cheap minis and just start throwing paint on them to figure out how paint goes on.
Yeah.
Because that's something the guys don't tell you. They're like, yeah, get this and water down your paint and then paint like this. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How do I put how much paint do I dip into from the pot? Like,
What is
is this,
watering?
yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's a bit irrelevant, but I thought it was a cool post to read because I was like, yeah, that was me. Like that was me like 2 years ago going like, oh,
Mm.
what am I doing? So
Mm. No, building a community. All right, Dirtbag Mail, very quickly. These are comments from last episode 118. Oh, God. I need to move forward slightly. My old eyes. Rogden said, I love the utility slot idea. It's something I would love to home rule in if I play another Frosthaven campaign. So many cool items that I could never justify taking otherwise. There you go, guys. Someone finally agrees with you.
there we go. 100% of the comments about the utility item slot are positive. This must mean that 100% of the community that care about utility slot would like to see it implemented. Who was that? Did you say?
That was Rognan5603.
All right. So I put a challenge out to you. If you want to go through all of the Frosthaven items and give us a list of which ones you think would fit into utility slot, and send it to us, and we'll go through them on the next pod or a podcast, and we'll kind of weigh it up and go like, is this too powerful or is it not too powerful? All right.
Yeah, Gaz's utility slot segment.
That's it. Love it.
Kevin DeCock said, I should have timestamped the fun little hats in previous video, but nice to hear you need to find money for the hats during the explanation of the scenario, which is awesome. LJ40K, my pitch for audience names, Deadheads, and Gastronauts. Good to have you guys back. What do you think? Deadheads sounds like it's almost like I like it. It just sounds like you're calling someone, and this is because it's my name, like a dickhead or something negative for some reason.
Yeah, it does.
Like, yo, deadheads.
Yeah, and gastronaut sounds like a vomiting like illness that you get. So,
Oh, I didn't go that far. No, we love it. I will make sure that I refer to everyone as a deadhead. Boss Trip said, why did you stop Crimson Scales? Why did we stop Crimson Scales, guys?
because you had a baby.
I did. I did. And then we had a box that arrived and it was just like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, play me.
So, I mean, I guess for when we started Crimson Scales, we were in this weird spot where we knew Gloomhaven second edition was coming out in the next 6 to 18 months. And we're like, well, do we start? And we had some amazing community members that were able to source us a copy that we were able to buy off them so we could have an actual copy without having to like fake anything, which was really cool. And so then we started it, right? And we pumped through as much as we could. But we were probably never going to finish it, which is a shame because I was really enjoying it and I want to see the other classes. So I think we talked about the fact that once we finish second edition, like picking that back up and at the very least going through like a core storyline to see the end of it or see some of the classes. So,
Oh, definitely probably unboxings. I think when we get a little short on stuff and we start, talking about the utility slot, we'll start doing some unboxings. Tiny said, I discovered your channel from the second edition unboxing videos, and I've really enjoyed those as well as your first scenario playthrough. My own group can't meet that often. I'm sure you guys will quickly overtake us, so I'll have to see if I allow myself to be spoiled. I do have first edition knowledge, so maybe spoilers will be okay. Looking forward to the rest of the series, nonetheless. Welcome, Tiny. I find it interesting that someone probably clicked on one of our unboxing videos, enjoyed it, and then looked to see what else we, had released. Because we had this discussion about the unboxings just before we actually hit record about the fact that, like, they're random. You'll see the thumbnail and people will be like, what's this about? And it's two guys literally like talking about the starter fresh for the first time with over 200 plus videos of the Haven series. Like it just, it probably is a very confusing moment.
yeah, well, like the most experienced amateurs you've ever met, right? Like, how have you been doing this job for 10 years and yet you still don't know what the buttons do?
No.
So, yeah, well, but welcome. Yeah. No, that's really cool. And as some people who are ridiculously spoiler adverse, we understand your predicament and cannot offer any advice other than it'd be great if you kept listening. But we understand if you can't.
Yeah. Just tell your group to meet up more often and then pull ahead. Just
tell
pull
us.
ahead.
Just say, look, shout out to your group. If your group's listening right now, get your shit together. Just meet more often. Otherwise, like you're not going to be able to keep up.
No, we're on a once a week thing.
Yeah,
you gotta push those numbers up or something like that. Muffin Tentacle said, dude, I played a banner spear level 1 to 8, and as I was retiring it and putting the cards away, I noticed I had been playing pinning charge wrong the whole time. Was doing +1 damage for the wind rather than +1 range. Noticing your screw up after only 2 scenarios is pretty decent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And if maybe I'll start a post on Reddit of like what did you massively screw up for a really long time on a class, right? Not so much rules because people mistake rules, and we've done that as well heaps. But like playing a class and a card wrong, and and it's kind of like where it doesn't seem OP, right? Like I know there's the boldening
A
blow
bolding
comment, like
blow, dude.
yeah. No, but I didn't play that wrong because Dwarf like messaged me like 85 times before I even got to the levels. Like, when you get to this level, read this thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'd be really curious to know because, and not so much to laugh at people because we've all done it, but yeah, like which ones have you just subtly stuffed up and then, oh, I didn't really read the whole card. Like, oh, it does that? That's weird.
It'd be interesting also because you're playing with a group. Oh, well, it's assumed, like even two players, right? Where both people have just accepted it. Because and that's not even uncommon, right? Because you, with your feedback loop situation, I didn't know what was happening. Now, when I'm editing it, I'm putting the cards on the screen. I could literally sit there and read it and be like, oh, hang on a second, that's not how it works. But like, I just assume you know what you're doing, so
Yeah,
I don't do that. But yeah, like that's where
that
your
was the
group can
first
kind of
mistake.
yeah. I
Yeah.
do it
So
now
no,
with every card.
yeah. So no, it is interesting, and I think that's it with the feedback loop thing. It doesn't seem OP, like it's attacking and then it gets to move, which is not so much getting it. Yeah. Anyway, it is one of those things that's it's interesting to think to look at. So thank you for making me feel a bit better about completely stuffing up the character at level 1.
I was going to say, because of the format of reading these out a week later, it's almost like you got over it and I've just brought it straight back.
You remember when you were an idiot? I was like, I forgot about that. Everyone told me it was fine.
And finally, Dwarf74, who can't stick to one message, has to write multiple during any given episode as things pop into his head, says, be easy on yourself, Gaz. Shaking the rust off is normal. Also, I don't look for mistakes that closely that would require more attention than I have. And I do make mistakes. And I do check the FAQ sometimes.
Do you reckon that he checks the FAQ and he reads it? He's like, doesn't sound right.
Thank you for the comments, Deadheads and Gastronauts. Keep them coming.
Yeah.
All right, let's
no,
talk
that's
about
cool. That is
let's
cool.
talk about scenario 2. We'll head over there. Something we didn't cover last week, and we're going to go back into covering, is the events. Now, Gloomhaven 2nd Edition has a complete overhaul on the road and city events, and the satire team led by Alexander, who has done some phenomenal stuff with Frosthaven. It's good to see, and some of the scenario writing as well. I think Alexander had his own chain at one stage as well in Frosthaven. Very excited to see what they've kind of done with it. So we had our first foray into it. We had city events, and I will read these out, the numbers of them in the future, so that you can skip forward if you're driving and you're not too sure. It's going to be real awkward, but this is city event number 3. All right. And it happened as, yeah.
I don't think that telling the police officer when they pull you over for using your phone that the amDirt guys were about to spoil events that I haven't heard. This is why I was using my phone while I was driving. I don't think that will stand up. But if you do use that as an excuse, I'm very keen to know what they say.
Let us know how it goes. But you might get the only cop who plays, the Haven series. And also, like, that's already fairly niche. And then also knows of us. He goes, the amDirt spoiler, don't tell me, quick, drive off.
Yeah, but please drive responsibly.
Yeah, on the right side of the road. All right, our first city event. A magician in the new market has gathered a crowd of onlookers ready to be wowed or scammed, either or. She does standard sleight of hand tricks, and the urge to loudly interrupt that "we know how the trick works" quickly dissolves as she builds up towards her next trick, revealing a wooden box covered in swords, piercing it from many different angles. She opens the box to reveal its insides, and we clearly see the inserted blades layered within, leaving very little free space for whatever or whoever ends up inside it. She then requests for a volunteer, but is quick to advise she won't be accepting quattrels, vermlings, aethers, and harrowers. Why is that, Gaz? Let's break it down. Quattrels bit small, or is it because they're all gizmo-y?
I think she's a racist.
Oh, yep, that's probably fair. Vermlings also small. Aethers because they look all invisible and magic and shit. And harrows because they're bugs and they can just like cheat or something, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she wants like a fleshy sack
fleshy.
of meat to go in there,
Perfect.
right?
Well said. Our options were to select one of us to participate or simply observe from the sidelines because, it's awkward when you get picked out of a crowd in those sort of situations. And my anxiety peaks up and everyone's looking at me and, there's a whole eye contact thing. And, you got to master it when you're in school and the teacher's looking at you and he's asking for a volunteer. Anyway, I'm bringing my real life situation into it. Now, since Gaz is a Vermling and I was a Quattrel, we push our human friend towards the magician and the crowd bursts into applause as Phil slowly walks towards the eager performer. Now, the event asks us to turn to a section book, which is already very cool, right? I think we've only encountered that maybe once in Frosthaven. Oh, it was one lengthy big one. There may have been other little ones, but normally the event card itself just has the whole resolution and everything on there. And it said, if one of the banned factions is put forward, so that's apparently something you can do, she lets us know that we're idiots and to read outcome B. Otherwise, she takes Phil's hand and whilst gently leading him into her box, whispers in his ear, "Follow the instructions inside. You'll be fine." Little does she know, Phil doesn't always read the whole card, so hopefully he knows what he's doing. She yells the magic words, "Iron Maelstrom," and loads Phil into her box, closing the opening. Phil notices a panel dislodging, revealing a tightly concealed hiding spot that he can use to avoid being impaled by the soon-to-be incoming swords. Now, the next bit is the selected character chaotic? And we said yes, Phil is chaotic because the Silent Knife is a bunch of stuff and chaotic. So, Phil decides he's got a better idea and proceeds to do absolutely nothing as the swords begin to enter around him, forcing a meek whoopsie daisies from the human. Before he knows it, Phil cops a blade to the stomach. Phil screams in agony as the box is swiftly opened and the crowd gasp in horror as Phil's impaled body twitches within. The magician's street license is revoked, her career ruined, and the children in the audience now require months of therapy, all whilst Phil starts the next scenario with wound. So that was our first city event. Well done, Alexander, team.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably unfairly set the bar really high. I've got a lot of positive things to say about this event that I don't think are going to be consistently repeated in all the events. I hope they are, but I just don't think it's realistic to.
Go,
That's-
try.
So, firstly, I love the idea that it was well written, right? Which is fine. I think they're all going to be well written. That's the easy one. It's a very creative team, and they've proven through all of Frosthaven that they're great at doing that. The parts that I really like that I think are going to be hard to mimic. I love that it was calling on, firstly going to the section book, I think is a good point because it allows them to add more to what's going on there, right? Without it being, I like that. I know some people are like, oh, I just want to get over the events and get to the dungeon crawling and the loot, right? Which is fine. But I personally don't mind spending an extra 5 minutes to get a cool bit of extra flavor and allow the event to have a little bit more depth.
Yeah.
Which is what it did. And then the impact of having a trait being negative, right, is such a cool
Twist.
It's just a cool moment. I'm not, twist. Yeah, exactly. And because when it was reading it out and you're like, oh, do you have chaotic? Feels like, yes, I do.
Yeah. That would be all our reaction as well if you had your keyword, right? You're just like, yes, I do have that. Awesome. What happens?
Yep. Cool. Because you're chaotic, you fail. And even if that was to be repeated, I don't think that would get old. And I think after a while, even after probably now, we're going to be very wary, right? It's going to be like, do you have nimble? And you're going to be like,
no.
Yeah.
Can you lie?
Yeah. Well, you can, right? But we're on camera now. So yeah, I think that's really cool. Now, I just don't think that these are going to have that level of depth. And from memory, I don't think the penalty was that bad. I know he started with wound, which isn't it. But did something happen to us? Did we lose? There's no reputation, is there?
No, from memory, I think that I think he just got wounded,
Yeah,
And that
okay.
didn't matter anyway because we failed the scenario, so he got unwounded.
Yeah. So, but yeah, anyway, I think like I'm hoping that they do feel as cool as this. But I know that you have to have red, red berry, green berry in there to make there be a difference, right? They all can't be complex events and festivals and stuff like that that go to the section book because that just
Mm,
bogs down.
mm.
So yeah, that's kind of where I think this event is.
Well, our road event wasn't involving the section book, which now makes me, we've only had one instance of both, but it makes me go, what if the section book only is for city events, right? Because the city is Gloomhaven. It's the big blah, 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 where more things can happen, more characters, more, intricate stuff. And the road events for the quick and nasty and dirty and berries, right? Because that could still be a possibility.
That's true. That's true.
We had road event 8. So the party, made up of a healthy tinkerer and mine thief and mildly injured silent knife, head out to the out of the city and quickly spot a freshly gnawed corpse on the side of the road. Just a throwback. Do you remember these when I'm saying it, or like before I've started reading them out?
The first one I remembered as soon as you said the lady wanted to volunteer from the audience, and I remember Phil getting stabbed.
Okay.
Now this one I remember. Wait, no, I think I remember. Oh, no, this isn't the sleepy one, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, it's the sleepy one. Yeah.
Yeah. So next to the corpse that we've just spotted, they notice a heavy mace, and then they proceed to take about 2 hours staring at it and comparing inventory slots and who wants the -1s that go with it in their AMD and blah, blah, blah. And the conversation quickly turns from everyone saying they don't want it until the Vermling mentions that they'll take it to sell, when suddenly everyone mentions that they could probably make use of it. Before the sun sets during this deep and meaningful conversation, an arrow swiftly sails towards the group and lodges itself safely in Phil's knee. This was no ordinary arrow, as it had a powerful sedative within its sharp tip, and the human starts to buckle under the sudden weight of his legs. Daddy and Gaz go to catch Phil, and when they inspect the poisoned wound, the sedative goes airborne and fills the noses of the Vermling and Quattrell. As the drowsiness begins to take effect, they spot a pack of Vermlings closing in on them, and Gaz starts to slur something about potentially being eaten. The group's options were to defend ourselves through the sleepiness or to grab the heavy mace and heavy Phil and start to run. There was a keyword on this, if you had nimble or strong. We managed to grab the mace and make I think we're all nimble as well, right? We've just got a full nimble lineup.
Yep.
We managed to grab a mace and make a run for it, dodging the projectiles as we do. We swear vengeance on the Vermlings and vow to return to this location to deal with them. So we ended up gaining a heavy mace, which is what you took. It does add 2 -1s to your deck. It's a one-hand tappable item that costs 20 gold. After you are attacked by an adjacent enemy, you get to perform an attack 1 targeting the enemy that attacked you. And that attack is unaffected by retaliate. And I think it's a great item. I don't think it's like earth-shattering at all, but I like the fact that it's not, they've added layers to it and requirements to make it work. And it carves out its own little niche. And it's worth $10.
Yeah, and it made no sense at all that I took it, considering how much money I make per scenario.
It made no sense that you allowed the Vermlings to deal with us and you didn't intervene at all.
I told you I said at the start, hey, these are my mates. And you're like, well, why are they attacking us? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
The option was like, yeah, that wasn't an option. It was like fight through the drowsiness or grab and run. There wasn't talk the Vermlings down.
The thing is, due to the way we've structured the events in our playthroughs now, if we all vote for the same option, we don't know what the other outcome was. So it could have likely been defend yourself, and then they're like, hey, you're a Vermling. Are you a Vermling? Are you a nimble Vermling? And you would have been like, yeah. And they're like, hey, cool. Here's like 500 bird rep or something like that. You know? All right. Scenario 2, Rooney's Crypt. So, what led us into this? Remember, I am tracking our story so that we can remember. I think I'm gathering the story. The story is going to be an important part of the game. Harmo, and I don't remember his actual name, but he's Harmo. Harmo, who's examining the ledger we returned from the bandit camp, states that he doesn't like that the bandits might not be petty thieves after all and could be a part of a larger picture. A quattrel wearing a blue cloak enters the room, and Harmo introduces them as Argy's Gantry, who is the spy master for the Gloomhaven military. Argy's Gantry, now known as Gantz, informs Harmo that their network has confirmed military information is being leaked by a group within Gloomhaven to a second group outside the city's walls. Gantz says he'd like to investigate the two groups, but something, no resources, of course. Harmo agrees and requests that we head out to scout the second group as he and Gantz, now known as Team Gantz Armo, follow up on the group within the city itself. So we go off and head towards scenario 2, which is locating that second group. Following the Spy Master's information, the amDirt boys head north along the Still River and eventually stumble into an ancient crypt. We push through a rotten door and are suddenly met with cultists mid-incantation in front of a fucking huge black holy shit. That escalated quickly. Without breaking their chant, they turn to us and Phil squeaks. One of the cultists draws a dagger and calmly asks, who are we to disrupt the work of the gloom? He says, our master will devour your souls, or something evil, equally generic and evil. A black fog spills out of the floating void hole, and the birth of the very first night demons is officially witnessed. Paralyzed with fear, the party quickly remember they need to get their end of scenario introduction punchline in and tell the cultists they don't know what the gloom is, but they don't plan on letting it eat their souls today. The scenario is complete when all enemies in it are dead. At the end of that round, we read a thing. How many scenarios until that changes and we start to get special? I think the first one we're going to get is loot. Loot gold tiles.
Ooh.
That's a good step up from kill alls.
Yeah, possibly. I reckon next scenario is going to be a different objective. I reckon they give you a couple to ease you into it. And then I reckon that scenario 3 is going to have some alternate objective.
All right. Give me an episode number for our playthrough. First boss fight.
Ooh.
4.
Boss fight. 12.
Jesus. All right. 4 and 12. Okay. Let's go. All right. The map is made up of 4 tiles, 2 of them making up a central room with branching doors, and then each of those doors leads to a V corridor. So it's a big X-Wing looking thing. Monsters, we have cultists or cultist, night demons, forest demons, living bones, and bin demons. What are bin demons, guys?
No, they come from the earth.
They do. There's special rules, and we've already got our first collection of special rules. We don't set up the monster ability deck for the cultists as normal, just the 2 summoning spammy initiative 63 ones. Roll call. Phil, level 1 Silent Knife. Gaz, level 1 Mind Thief. Teddy on the level 1 Tinkerer. We did this on +1, and we've done this twice. Because we failed the first time.
Not because we loved it so much.
No. Before I jump into what happened, which I'm sure you'd love to hear, do you have any comments on any of that?
No, it seems a good intro. It kind of just drops you into, hey, there's something really bad going on, right? And I think that's what you kind of need with this game, with the storyline. Like, I like the interactions and the, hey, you should go do this thing. And then the next one's like, hey, it's very D&D. It's like, oh, hey, can you go investigate this crypt? And then you go in there and then there's something really bad. And the cultist has to monologue at us to tell us like what he's going to do and why everything's bad and why we're doomed and blah, blah, blah. And when we win, we go back to town. We're like, oh, there's some dude told us that everyone's doomed. And then that'll kick off, us being adventurous.
Exactly that. You've done this before. All right, how it went. Phil immediately wants to insta-blow up the cultist, and Gaz and Teddy cast doubt on the human Silent Knife, which, look, if we could do it again, I probably would have said go for it, right? Like, we need to trust Phil, in these circumstances, and know that he can take care of it. He can deal with the threat and the follow-up, right?
Yeah, well, I think, though, the thing was that you said if you do that, I can't heal you and or play any of my cards that give you cards back. And I think it was very quickly like like there was, 2 or 3 night demons sitting in front of us with, and It's a weird decision to go over there and kill that other guy. I
Mm.
get it because it means he's not going to summon skeletons, but it's like, yeah, you go over and kill him and you won't summon skeletons, and then you turn around, the rest of your party's dead. So I think he made the right decision in the end.
Let's find out if he did or not, because there was one moment where he definitely made a decision. The night demons respond by roaring in terror, and the cultist begins to cast a spell. Gaz and Deddy lock eyes, place one hand behind their waists, and yell, "It's morphin' time! Swarm and Horde! Dwarf 74! Dun 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 dun." amDirt Rangers summoned. A swarm of rats fly out of Gaz's mouth as Deddy starts to unpack his flat pack cardboard standee. The night demons, seeing this, spring to action but only move 4 spaces for some reason, so they just chill out of range of the party. Dwarf, now fully erected thanks to Deddy, stands proudly next to the group, ready to take the fisting he was built for. The cultist also decides it's morphin' time and summons the skeleton rat beater 3000, which rises from the ground and sets its sight on the horde of rats. Gaz somehow ends up as a juicy night demon target for some unhinged attack 5s, but the silent knife comes to his rescue by abandoning his attempt on this summoner to prevent the little vermling from losing 2 cards. And I'm not sure if this counts as the Gaz cuckoning for the week, but it always deserves a mention. Nighty's montage fight music breaks out as blows are exchanged, attacks are at disadvantage, and the horde of rats gets turned into a fine mist as the relentless attacks of the night demons were too much for the critters. But once the demons are banished, the remaining cultist is swiftly chopped down, and the party, minus the rat horde and a fairly fisted dwarf, head towards the northern wall, carefully avoiding the traps blocking the door. As they carefully approach, Phil whispers something about being nearly out of stamina and shows the others his hand of 6 cards. Deddy opens his tinkering tarp of toys, pulls out a bottle of something wet, and tells Phil to open up as, following a few pumps, pours his reinvigorating elixir all over Phil's face, while Gaz and Dwarf quietly watch. This does the trick as Phil suddenly has a second wind, and while the Tinkerer now needs a long rest, the silent knife carefully disarms the nearby traps with his feet, and mentally scarred Mind Thief proceeds to open the door. The smell of death and bin pours out of the revealed room as more living bones and earth demons turn to the intruding party. Gaz the Mind Thief retreats momentarily before leaping over the pack to begin assaulting the monsters from behind. Lol. Dwarf and Phil hold the front line while Steady throws aggressively subpar attacks through the open door, all while the Mind Thief picks apart the rear skeletons. The Earth Demons attempt to attack the mischievous rat, but are astonished when it vanishes into thin air. Phil dispatches the remaining skeletons, and now with just the 2 Earth Demons remaining, the party discusses splitting the group in order to speed up the goal. The Silent Knife mentions he's going to exhaust soon once again, and as the group argue how is that possible, it is soon decided to split up, and with Gaz and Dwarf to deal with the remaining Earth Demon while Deddy and Phil head to the remaining door. The Earth Demon, now mad that he's being mocked by a cardboard cutout, uses fist insertion on Dwarf, who collapses in a pile, which fills the Vermling with a sudden rage. The Mind Thief uses Submissive Affliction, and jokingly, not jokingly, mentions that it has a 100% chance to miss, proceeds to draw his null on cue, and shocked Pikachu faces are had by all. Gaz, who saw it coming a mile away, buries his face in his little paws, and advises the group he might be a tad late. Meanwhile, Deddy and Phil be prepared to breach the final door, with Phil opening it to discover more living bones, this time accompanied by an actual threat in Frost Demons. Lucky for him, they only have 1 ranged attack, so he figures he can chill in the doorway. The Frost Demons react by using their only ranged attack, and Phil cops a booking, which forces him to change plans as he decides to bait the monsters out of the room and around the corner. The skeletons and Frost Demons mess up their communication and begin blocking each other in order to get to the escaping human, and as this is occurring, the Tinkerer throws a giant net over 3 of the assailants, locking them in place. Gaz, who presumably dealt with the remaining Earth Demon, who knows, quickly reunites with the team, and they begin planning on how to deal with the remaining monsters safely. The living bones activate mincemeat mode, and the brave Tinkerer, who hadn't killed anything yet because he's a good dude, has to make a decision around helping the team versus completing his battle goal, but not before taking the dicking Gaz was meant to take by burning 2 cards to save the rat. Accepting responsibility and doing the selfless thing, the Tinkerer follows up with a huge one-shot on a Skelly and a follow-up on another as monsters begin to go down one by one. but this leaves the Quattrall with sadness as he has indeed booked his battle goal. After this series of heroic moments, he advises that he's going to have to exhaust soon, which results in the vermling mine thief, and I kid you not, turning to the Tinkerer, and while doing so, a fuckload of coins falling out of his overflowing fat pockets, and proceeds to stare at the tired Tinkerer in disbelief. The Silent Knife recoups some energy and re-enters the fray to finish off the remaining monsters just as the Tinkerer falls. As the Tinkerer lays on the dungeon floor, coughing up blood, the Mine Thief approaches and holds its head in his hands. The Tinkerer smiles and manages to say in shallow breaths, "It was all worth it, friend." To which the Mine Thief spills his coins all over the floor. Cling, clang. Sorry, Tinkerer, I didn't quite hear that. What did you say, my brave friend? The Tinkerer repeated it. It was all worth cling, clang. The Silent Knife pockets, also overflowing with silver, interrupts the touching moment to which the Mine Thief scolds him and asks the Tinkerer if he could repeat himself one more time. The Tinkerer clearly over the situation necks himself, and the remaining party all solemnly lower their heads as they all say a few words. Cling, clang, ding.
It's like I was there again.
Thoughts of the scenario.
Yeah, good recap. Yeah, like I really enjoyed it. I thought it was I mean, like from a complexity perspective, like it was pretty simple, which I think again worked in its favor. It was challenging for us anyway. I think playing on +1, and us being a little bit nervous about failing it again, definitely made it interesting. And you know, it got close there in the end, which is cool. Like I think it's the right level of you know what you want to do. I think for an early scenario, it has a decent amount of movement required. And I mean, I know I have a couple of cards I can combine to move. Like I've got a bottom move 4, a couple, and I've also got a top move 3. So if I have those in a turn, you know, being able to move 7 just gets you most of the way. Phil can just has what move 6s or something like that on all his cards.
By
So I
default,
think
yeah.
yeah, so I guess a couple of the classes have the ability to do that, and the chests are in the far corners. But I do feel like it's one that newer players could find themselves getting stuck and
Yeah.
being like, oh, well, I don't need to keep these, you know, high movement cards because, you know, as you rest, you got to burn cards, et cetera, and then find themselves having to slowly move over to the other door and waste like an entire cycle of cards.
Yeah.
Which isn't a criticism at all on the scenario. It's just an interesting observation of like where people might find this difficult if they were newer to Haven.
Yeah.
Whereas we just found it difficult because we aren't very good at the game.
It ramps up considerably from the first scenario, and I think a lot of that's got to do with, like you said, the spacing. So because it's so large, that's going to take more cards and more actions and more rounds to traverse the whole space. There's probably more standees as well, so that's also going to elongate it because we went 22 rounds, right? I think it was 22 rounds, whereas I think scenario 1 was like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And even though we failed the first time, we kept the difficulty at a +1. Right, which at the end of the day becomes a pure numbers game. But I think I mentioned to you, we didn't, in my head, like we're very average, right, in a good way, but we didn't really mess up from what I could see. Yes, there was the bit where, you know, you could have lost 2 cards, but Phil saved it, so therefore it's not really a mess up, right? And towards the end, I had to lose a few to take the. But there weren't really massive mistakes that was going to set everything back from what it felt. And yet it still felt very close, which leads me to believe, yeah, it's definitely a numbers thing. And it doesn't matter, like, unless you're really like insanely good, I think people are going to trip up on this after they've come out of scenario 1. I think it's going to be an interesting challenge. It's going to teach them about stamina. It's going to teach them about being able to traverse larger areas and making sure that they bring those move 4s and all that kind of stuff. And as a result, I like it. The cultists only having those summon cards almost acts as an objective in one of the Frosthaven ones, one of the early ones, where you open a door and it's like, you can't just dick about. You got to deal with this. That was him, right? Which I thought was a really cool, subtle way of introducing a urgency situation in a scenario. Because it even caught us off guard. We'll go deal with it. Well, hang on a second, like you said. We're going to have night demons who hit pretty hard coming over to us, we don't really have someone that can soak that up apart from, Dwarf, which is a thing. But even he would get cut down by 3 night demons, right? Or all
Mm.
flailing on him, and you and I are on the squishier side. So I think it was surprisingly challenging. And when we failed the first time, I'll be honest, it was pretty deflating because it was like, wow, how shit are we, right? That we failed scenario 2. How is that a thing? How bad are we? But upon playing it again, like I said, and not playing anywhere near as badly, it was still pretty hard. And therefore, I think it's elevated its level of difficulty in my head as a fairly, challenging scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the combination of monsters as well lends itself to some pretty gross turns, right? Like, as you said, the cult of summoning is a timer, which I hadn't thought of that, and it's a really cool way of giving people an idea of what have you got to do. So it kind of signposts if you are new. Again, looking at this from a new player perspective, where here we've got these monsters here, this thing's summoning, and after a turn of that, you're like, ooh, hang on, this is going to get out of control really quickly.
Mm,
Which is cool. I like that mini objective without it being a special rule. You have to go stand on this thing first before you can do a thing is an instruction. Whereas it's just like, nah, do what you want, but if you don't do this, it's probably going to be bad.
mm.
Is kind of cool. But yeah, with night demons, like night demons have the ability to obviously hit quite hard. They can be very hard to kill, especially when your AMD is like just brand new.
And the
And
disadvantage thing with the AMD thing, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like when your
Yeah.
AMD is full of -1s and stuff like that, having disadvantage sucks.
Hmm.
And they have good movement or they reasonable movement as well. So they go quick and they can do it. So that can be very, very challenging. And then you've got the bones, right? Which depending what they draw and depending if you all line up for them, again, new players very quickly could learn, oh, we can't stand near each other because these things are going to move in and hit all 3 of us for 5.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think on 0 difficulty, so not +1, I think that it would pose a challenge for new people, just purely through those things. And I think it is a good second scenario. It's almost, we talked
Yeah.
about this last week about how scenario 1 in Gloomhaven first edition, Black Barrow, was like a brutal introduction to Gloomhaven, right? You play this and you're like, oh wow, we barely got out of the second room.
This
Like
game
how
sucks.
yeah. Yeah, but how are we supposed to do this? And it really forces you to learn how the game needs to be played, right? This isn't Hero Quest or any other dungeon crawl where you just attack move yourself across the dungeon and roll dice at things and then just die, right? I feel like this is the scenario for that.
Well,
Like,
the living bones, like you said, it teaches you positioning so that you don't get cleaved. They've got a shield, so it teaches you how to deal with shield, right? I can't remember if I think the elite scouts in the first scenario had them as well. But it teaches you shield. You're introduced to night demons with disadvantage, right, on them, and they're pretty scary and they might go invisible. So that's another thing that you have to navigate. It teaches you to deal with a summoning unit that is a high priority unit. It teaches you how to deal with retaliation because you've got frost demons now in there.
mm,
So it's introducing all these components and it's teaching you that sometimes they mess up and make a shit monster like the Earth Demon, right? So it balances it out and it introduces you to little bits and pieces from different parts of the game, which is really
mm,
cool. And it's like you said that about the first scenario. It sort of has a little bit of everything, right? It's got the traps, it's got the obstacles, and it allows every character their kit to sort of work in there. This is like an extension of that. Great, cool. You beat scenario 1. Here's a bunch of different variety of monsters that you're going to come up against, all with their own little thing. And I think it's really cool.
yeah, and it's probably it's interesting because on that again, what we talked about with scenario 1 and what you just mentioned there, I feel like the first 10 scenarios or so, they almost have perfect knowledge of which characters are going to be played. Unless people are pulling characters from other games or doing some weird house rule thing, you are unlikely to be retiring characters earlier than 10 scenarios. I'm sure there's like a couple of PQs you can get that you could blast through. But for the most part, they know that one of these 6 characters, well, I mean, up to 4 out of these 6 characters will be played through these scenarios. So you can kind of tailor them to that.
Mm.
You can put these things in knowing that, okay, cool. Well, yeah, we'll have some obstacles, we'll have some traps, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think I think it's interesting. Um, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, look, I don't know how much of that is because it's all new and it's cool and I'm discovering stuff and I'm really enjoying getting back into Haven. Versus the scenario. Like if we played a scenario like this in, I don't know, 6 months, right? Would I be saying the same thing? I don't know. I think the scenario felt really good and it's probably still fine.
Yeah. No, I think in 6 months' time we'll be sitting here going, Matt Summers,
Can't
why?
wait. I can't wait. Like that's gonna be that's probably if I had to come up with like three most anticipated moments or what am I looking forward to in this campaign, that's got to be in my top three. When we stumble across the first Matt Summers scenario, I'm just gonna be like, yes, this is it's we're here now. Like Haven has officially started.
Well, we've unlocked scenario 97 from the road event, so who knows? Like, this is the thing where we've unlocked scenario 3 now. Do we do that or do we immediately start going doing side stuff? Do we let the people decide?
Well, that's dangerous, right?
Very.
I mean, they probably know more than us, but yeah.
We'll have a chat about that. All right, amDirt Diaries. Oh, sorry, before we jump into that, remember that hypothetical NPC named Ormu that we talked about last week?
Yeah.
How would he go here?
I think he dies because there's night demons, and
That's what I'm thinking.
He goes, "I'm going forward," and then he dies because he just gets swarmed.
I feel like this is a copy and paste job for nearly every scenario now. Is it because we don't have a traditional frontliner? Would you say? Because in the past, it's almost like you'd almost imagine Mark on the chain helm or whatever jumping in and dealing with stuff. We don't have the luxury of that these days anymore. In our fairly squishy party of no one really wants to go up front. He does.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much of a problem because we don't have a frontliner, but we are all squishy, so we're all trying to play really conservatively. Like nobody, it's not so much about we don't have a character that wants to get hit, but we all have three characters that are trying to avoid getting hit, which means we tend to not like you want to manipulate the monsters or stuff like that. Like go really late, for example. Whereas at Ormy's just like, nah, don't worry, guys, I got this, and he'll go forward and then die because we all went at 80 plus. So
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see if he has a better time next week. amDirt Diaries, Tinkerer. So now that I've utilized Dwarf in the second run, 10 health, he can move. The 3 movement is amazing. It's great that I've also got a fat heal target. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying having that there, and I think it's a added bonus. I mean, he lived for such a long time compared to the rats, right? Yeah, it was just one of those unfortunate things where the rats got absolutely owned. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised at how much value I'm now giving that, whereas something in our unboxing I wouldn't have thought or I wouldn't have allocated that amount of value to a non-attacking, 10 health pet that can move 3. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm I'm learning the burning situation, as in that it does feel a little different to other burn-based characters that I have played in the past, in that there's a lot of supporting at the start and helping Phil, which is I'm enjoying. I'm helping him get more out of his character so that he stops saying to me 4 rounds in that he's about to exhaust, and so I'm enjoying helping him elongate his session. But then knowing that I've got these cards to use at the end is fun. It's just that, you see conversation, and I don't know how much of it's joking of people saying, yeah, you got to burn all 12 cards within the first 4 rounds, you're not doing it properly. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do that. I really don't think I can do that, right? And the other thing I'm learning is like, now that I'm a few scenarios in, is learning what abilities. I know what abilities I have. I don't know what cards they're on and what other abilities they're sharing the same real estate. And that caught me out this time, where I think one of the heals is on the same card as one of the burns that I wanted to use to help Phil fairly early, which meant I no longer had it. So this is why I love amDirt Diaries. This is why I love the discovery process of playing the character and making these, this is where I guess a guide is handy because it tells you all of this up front, but there's something very satisfying about discovering it as I'm going along and going, and then, yeah, the only thing that's up next is deciding my level 2 card. I've already seen some of the comments in the playthrough on that, which yeah, I'll go through and read out the beginning of the next playthrough. I will have decided before then, and a perk as well, which I'll reveal to everyone when we get to it.
Hmm. Very good.
But
Yeah, well, you seem to be leaning into it a bit, and I think one of the things with both our party composition and playing with three players has meant cards like the decoy or harmless contraption, is that's what it's called, like the actual
yeah,
card name, yeah, become useful, right? Because I mean, I'm sure they're useful in four players in some capacity, but it's cool that that card becomes even more important for kind of how we're playing. So yeah. Mind Thief. So like so far, I'm really enjoying it. As you've mentioned a couple of times, I played the rats. The rats died in like round 3, which was unfortunate. But I mean, it did mean that one of us didn't get crit for 10. Because I remember when I got crit, Phil was like, "Oh my god, that would have killed like the harmless contraption," and you're like, "That would have killed everybody." Like, there's nobody that doesn't discard a card after that. So, um, I think in fairness, they did a little bit of damage, and then they probably took the hit that we didn't have to take, so it worked out. I think what I really like about the class design here, and what I'm kind of looking forward to, is that with a summoning class, I think traditionally, maybe, and this is where they fix it with the Bone Shaper, right? Like something that wants to summon, it's a very big investment, and so you tend to go, "Well, I'm going to put this out, but if it dies, I can't get it back."
mm,
And so there's this element of these classes that have they're probably not summon based classes, but they might have a pet. Like it happened with the snowflake and a bunch of other stuff where you have the
spoilers.
option. Sorry, happened with a class in Frosthaven that you played
Hmm.
and redact. Just put redacted over the top of it.
No, it's so
Um,
much work.
okay, sorry everyone. But like yeah, these classes that just go, oh, one of your level up cards could be a summon, or one of your base cards could be a summon. It always feels really bad, but I think the fact that I was able to then transition into using the other augments, and it didn't really feel that
Mm,
bad. Like, yeah, it sucks because I was using feedback loop or whatever it's called to get more benefits out of the rats. But then the bottom of feedback loop, I think, is like a move 4. So it wasn't like that was a dead card from I think whatever it is, it was useful still. And then I was just able to go, well, I've got these other two augments that I have. Like one's the one that puts all the negative conditions. The other one I think gives you bonus to your melee attacks. So it didn't feel bad. Like I didn't feel like
no,
I'm choosing a suboptimal path just because I had to. I was just like, all right, well, the
it
rats
still
are dead.
works.
Yeah, so now I'm gonna go switch more into the multi-hitting, putting status effects up, and trying to hide a little bit more,
Mm.
which was cool. Like it did feel really good, and it just kind of went like, oh well, that happened. Now here's another puzzle to solve. How are you going to make this work? And it's just like, oh, cool, but it actually had the tools.
I
So
wonder how much that, because now at the moment you're level 1, so you've got a mishmash of all the the cards -3 that you're not bringing.
mm,
But as you build it, like I'm thinking, Bone Shaper, right? It's got the Bone Horde, and you want to keep that thing alive. That thing's like heavy hitting. It does so much damage and all that kind of stuff. Once that goes down, like the character still works, but a lot of that's going to be based on the decisions you make up to the level where you unlock that thing. So if you invest heavily into it and you start building all your cards around it and then you lose it, how much is it going to be easy to recover? Now it's going to be easy because you've still got all your level 1 cards. So it's kind of hard because you haven't really heavily gone down that path. But will it stay that way, right? And is the intention also to then purchase items that are going to be helping the summon build? You know how we've seen those in the past.
yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. I guess I don't know how much because we haven't seen the cards because we don't look at the cards because we're idiots like that. But
Yeah.
and we love discovery. But yeah, you're 100% right. Like there could be an amount of investment that goes into that kind of play style that starts making not doing it suboptimal. So like,
Mm,
oh, now that's dead. I've put an item and a couple of level up cards into this. Now I'm kind of a bit worse off than I would be. But I think I'm just gonna have to keep that in mind. Like it's only got 4 or 5 health. And it's gonna die. Like, it's almost impossible for me to protect it because I'm also just as squishy. So it's not like I'm gonna be like, "Oh, don't worry, I wanna jump in front of this thing and make sure I get hit instead," because I don't wanna get hit. So I kind of feel like it's the thing that's gonna pop up for a few turns, um, and then just hopefully I can pump a bunch of damage up and out, and then, I'm gonna move into something else. So yeah, it
Mm.
will probably be about not over optimizing into it.
Yeah, okay. It'd be interesting to see whether or not, because pets don't scale, and from level one, it's rare to see one scale into the end game. A lot of the times they get power crept, right? They get replaced by a better version of it, and you still get to run the the emergency rats, which there'll be dubs because you'll have a better version of it. But I'll be curious as to see whether or not there's a better rat thing coming along, or whether or not there's more toys that support the original.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, and I remember I made a comment. I think it was during Crimson Scales about I don't even know. Essentially, like at certain level up points, you should just get cards with certain classes that replace existing cards, so that there isn't an option there. Because one of the things that kind of can feel bad is you hit level 5 and it's like, oh, here you have giant horde of rats, right? Which is an upgraded version of rats, or maybe this other card that does a couple of attacks and a move. If you're not playing the I want to use rats and the other card's not super appealing, you're kind of stuck. Or if you're just not playing the I like playing with a summon, then it's like a mandatory take of the other one, which means you're robbed of a decision. Um, so yeah, it's interesting to think about cards like that you get at level 1, and you kind of just want them to get slightly better each time.
Mm.
Which maybe that's where the enhancements come in, right? Maybe that's the idea, is that you're supposed to use those so that they stay relevant later on. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
from memory, I can't remember. I assume it's got the enhancement slots next to
enhancements.
its stats. Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be cool if, like, at level 1, 3, and 6, and 9, there was just like a new version of the rat that you got that was just a slightly upscaled version so that it was still like competitive.
Mm.
So that you could keep the same play style. But then again, I don't know what other cards are coming. There might be better versions. There could just be better augments. I assume that there will be more augments. So yeah, it's all speculation.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah,
we're idiots.
because we're idiots, and like to speculate, right? Like, we have cards right there, and it's in the rules that says
They're
you're
right
allowed to
there.
look at them right
Correct.
there.
We could know this right now. We could quickly
We
look it up
could,
right now,
we could,
but we're
but
not going to because we're idiots.
that's it. That's it. But then if we looked it up, then we would know what's going on, and we wouldn't be able to talk about not knowing what's going on and what we hope is coming up, and people wouldn't be able to be listening to this frantically and angrily typing into the chat box,
Yeah.
about what we're wrong about. So
Well, that's the worst part is that right now, because people know that we don't know, we got a free pass to being an idiot. But if we did know and we still made the wrong call, I mean, we got nothing to fall back on.
that's a good point. We never want to read anything. Yeah. All right. We'll lose that. Yeah, lose that out. So
All right, we have a good 10 minutes to chat about our topic for the week. This was inspired by Stu in our Discord about how I lost my battlegoal, my 2-checker, and I had a pivotal moment. And in the playthrough, I actually had the two angels, the angels and the devil version of Teddy. One of them saying don't do it, and the other one saying do it. And I was weighing up whether or not I wanted to book my battlegoal. But the thing that was really weighing on me was the fact that this could be such a pivotal moment that I could cost the scenario by not doing it. And the thing is, like, I may not have said anything, right? It could have just happened. And no one, potentially, maybe viewers, but no one would know whether or not I actually could have done something in that moment, right? There's a level of selfishness, selflessness that kind of, comes in. And the topic is, they were saying, oh, I didn't get the checkbox from the thing, but I got, emotional check marks because I should feel good about myself and all that. And I'm like, you look at the other people who are sitting there celebrating with their actual check marks in their, pocket full of coin. And I'm like, is emotional check marks worth anything, right? And there are groups out there that will have players, I'm sure, that will sometimes be very incentivized, and they'll be doing everything for themselves. And I know and let's break the fourth wall here. That's a Deddy and Gaz thing, right? I think you and I are very similar in the way we play a lot of games. We don't, if I see a chest over somewhere, a lot of the times in my head, maybe not after the first one, but after I've nabbed the first one, I'll be like, now it's someone else's turn to get it.
Mm.
that kind of thing. That's automatically how I feel. And I think it's involving other people into having it, because it's not fun for the table, which is what's important when you're sitting down and playing a game like Gloomhaven. It's a co-op game. You want people to play with that if they're not being able to partake in the spoils.
Yeah.
But I know that that doesn't always exist in other groups, and this is where I'd be very fascinated with how other groups out there, from our listeners, do you have a person at your table that takes all the loot, that takes all the coins, that doesn't come back to save you from taking the hit because it's not in their best interests, and
Mm.
how you navigate a situation like that? Like, what goes through your mind when you, I guess, see, well, I actually would probably know. You'd probably come and save me in the situation that I did, or with what Phil did when he came over to save us.
Yeah, well, I think that I play like that a lot, and through Frosthaven and Crimson Scars, I think some of the characters I played landed into that a little bit. Um, but I'm always kind of, we when we had four, and it's the same is true when we've got three. We all have different objectives about how and what we want to, what's fun.
Mm,
Um, and like I have tended to lean towards more, say, supporty characters in, air quotes,
very
uh,
true.
or playing characters that are, not necessarily going hard DPS. It's more about kind of manipulating things or helping other people. So I think because of that, I also become really objective minded in the scenario. Like I'm looking for what's our lose condition, what's our win condition, right? Someone's going to go up and get hit by for like 6. Okay, cool. Well, I can throw this in the way or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I remember there was one scenario we did in Crimson Scars when I was on the Beetle, and I remember I had that teleporty thing, and I was like, you guys were all in there, and there was a cannon that I think we'd opened a door or drawn a card, and basically 3 people were going to get hit and immobilized. I think Mark was going to lose a pet. It was like going to be a horrible turn. And I was like working it all out. And I'm like, no, guys, I've got this. And I like moved forward, swapped with the cannon, like with another thing. So it was out of range and out of sight and all that kind of stuff. And for me, I was just like, fuck yeah, like that felt really good. It really wasn't effective progressing the scenario forward, but I felt really good of like I know how much damage I just mitigated there and
Yeah.
how pissed off everyone would have been because it would have been set back. Like miles with different things and had to waste cards and blah blah blah. So I take a lot of joy out of that kind of maneuver.
Yeah.
And I know everyone is at different levels of degrees of that. Like some people won't, they don't even think about it. Some people don't care. Some people are like, oh, fine, I guess I'll do that. And that's why I don't like asking for it. Don't be like,
Mm,
"Hey, can you come and save me?" Because it's like I don't like putting that burden on someone. If they've got something really cool they want to do, they should do that because that's where their fun is.
mm.
But like when Phil, just quickly, when Phil did that early, it was like it's like I was like hey guys, I'm gonna get hit here and I'm going to lose a card and I don't have any in my hand, so I'm gonna lose two. Table do whatever you will with that information, right? And that's where Phil made the decision on his own. It's like, yeah, I'm going to come over and kill that guy, or I take the hit for you, right? But I wouldn't have said if he said, no, I'm going to go for the cultist. I would have been like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, let's go. Let's do it. I got myself into this position, so it's my fault, right? And we will make it work.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be like, no, you have to do this unless we're going to lose,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
If it's like this monster is going to attack this objective and we're going to lose, so you need to do something about that. No, I'm going to go get this this other monster over here because I've got this really big burn card I want to use. And we're like, okay, well that's very selfish because we're just literally going to lose.
Mm.
If it was like black and white like that, I'd say something more. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, you do you. Like this is the whole thing with the game. Like we're all playing our own characters. Not I'm not playing yours or Phil's.
It got me thinking that, because something I have to remember is that groups out there will be doing things differently to us. I mean, there are so many that already will be because they already have looked ahead and seen the cards that they can unlock. All right, that's probably the biggest one difference between us and a lot of groups out there. But the other thing is we're very secretive with battle goals, right? Unless it's important for some particular reason, we're still very vague with what we need from them. Like, personal reasons, I need to do that. Not that we've done that lately. But a lot of groups out there play with open information, right? Their
Yeah.
PQs are on display and they coordinate to make them work. Now, is this a detriment or is this a positive thing that we are so secretive with our battle goals? Does it enhance the game? Does it make it better? Or you think it's a detriment to us and we're making the game, I mean, obviously we're making the game harder, but that, because they're secret and we don't reveal it, that then leads to the situation that I was in, right? Where
Yeah.
there was an opportunity for me to be selfish because people didn't know.
Yeah, I think that it makes the game harder, but I actually think that it's instead the normal way you're supposed to play is with those secrets. Not necessarily not looking at cards, but the battle goals and PQs are supposed to be secret, right? And you're not supposed to coordinate to do them because they suddenly become substantially easier, especially the battle goals, to do when you can be like, hey guys, so I need to kill two elites. Everybody like, okay, cool. Hey, I've set this one up for you. Alley, go.
Mm.
Right? That just takes it's kind of that's the selfishness I think that's built into the game.
It's
So
almost the anti-quarterbacking tool.
yeah, well, exactly, right? Like, oh hey, don't forget, guys, you got to move every round, right? Oh
Yeah.
shit, yes, I forgot. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Or,
Like,
or Gaz, we're all in the other room. Why are you still only moving 2 hexes per round? I know you have a move 4. Right. And
exactly.
that's probably one of the biggest culprits.
Yeah,
That one or prepper, right?
yeah,
They're the ones where you're just like, mate, what are you doing?
yeah.
This room is kicking our asses and you're still prepping. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it does make it harder, but I think that it makes it at the level it's supposed to be. And by doing too much coordinating and open information, it makes the game easier. Right, and I wouldn't play it like that because I think it adds something to the game when there is some secret stuff. And exactly right, like someone has um slowpoke, right? Or one of those ones that is like it changes the way that you play the game a little bit. It almost robs them of achieving it because how good is it when you do a really hard scenario, right? And you get through it and you just get there, and then you go through battle goals and like, I got slowpoke, and you're like,
Yeah.
holy
It's a
shit,
big reveal.
really?
It's a really cool
Yeah,
reveal.
yeah,
It's always impressive.
and there's always like a couple of moments that you can recall where you're like, oh, I was there, or the
Oh,
one that you can't do the basic attacks or move, right?
mm,
That same one, it's like yeah, like I could have killed that monster that was on 1 HP, but I couldn't because I didn't have an attack.
man, I love
So
those moments. I love those decisions. And I
yeah,
think that's why I really leaned into it in our playthrough. So
yeah, yeah. So I think that if you share all that stuff, then you rob everyone of those moments because it becomes really obvious.
yeah.
And if you knew that if someone had the like don't do a basic attack, you could just be like, then I think there may be conflict because it's no longer their decision. Right? Like if we'll use the example from the scenario, right? Like you needed to blast that thing and that was the right move for us winning the scenario. But if we knew you had that thing and you were like, nah, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to kill it. And we all saw that you thing and but we're going to lose if you don't do that. So then it becomes a conversation of us with you. So you're choosing your battle goal over losing the scenario. And then you can make the argument, I'm sure we'll be fine. We'll work it out. And then if we
Mm,
lose, we go, well, that's your fault now.
mm,
Right. And I feel like that's unnecessary conflict that's created by this open information. Whereas if you have it and you make that decision, no one's coming back to it. Like if you don't do the attack 5 or whatever on that skeleton, I mean, nobody knows. Right. Nobody knows
yeah.
you didn't choose it.
Yeah.
So it allows you to kind of move forward and it stops that, well, it's your fault because you chose to do this in this space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's probably healthier for the group for it to be a little bit hidden.
I dare say there have been many instances in Frosthaven, Crimson Scales, and most likely Gloomhaven, second edition, where we will book our battle goal, what I've just done, to do exactly that, to win. Or it could be a situation where Phil couldn't end his turn next to you, right? But he had to save you from those 2 cards fairly early on, right? We've all done that. And, we will all pull through for each other in that kind of situation. Has there been a situation, you may not know the exact scenario moment, where you have booked the scenario for your battle goal and no one knew?
Oh, no, not at all. Like, because like I said, I'm so focused on the scenario objective that I will always do what I need to on my turn. Like,
Yeah.
remember that scenario where I spent with the crab, like 2 scenarios that I spent on coral, literally just moving around, picking things up because no one else was doing it, and I had the right card to be able to do it. That was like, we're gonna talk about boring, like Haven.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally spending 10 rounds, like just moving backwards and forwards because I was really good at that. Sucked. Right. But that just needed to happen. So yeah, I don't think that there's any case where I've booked the scenario for my personal battle goal.
I have a feeling I have once, at least. I reckon I have, but I justified it once we either lost or something, that wasn't the reason we lost. And it might have been, but I reckon I have found like a reason in my head to be like, oh, look, I probably should have broken that battle goal to then kill that thing with a basic attack or something. I reckon there's a bit of once because we've played so much Frosthaven Crimson Scales.
Mm.
But yeah, I would have told myself, we were gonna lose anyway.
I think the thing is, it depends on when it happens, right? Because decisions that happen early, and this is just a human bias, right? But decisions that happen in the first half of the scenario seem to not impact the end. But the decisions in the last, I don't know, 10%, 20% of it, it's like, that decision there was the reason we lost. And you're like, it's like in footy. It's like someone misses a goal after the siren and they're like, well, we lost because you didn't kick a goal. It's like, but the whole team kicked 15 points. And like, well, if one of them had kicked the goal, then we would have won as
Correct.
well. So
Correct.
I feel like, and I think we talked about this in episode 1 or 2 of the pod, which a bunch of people probably haven't heard. And it's terrible. Don't go back and listen to it. But one of the cool things about Haven, one of the things I love the design is that there are so many decision points, right? Ignoring all the RNG, there's so many decision points across every single round that once you get to round 10, 15, you can't say we lost because we got RNG'd.
Yeah.
You're like, well, no, everybody, you're playing with 4 people. That's 8 cards got picked every single round to maneuver your character, your attacks, your abilities, to do all these different things, right?
Mm.
And you're telling me like 80 cards later, you're going to say, or even more, right? Like, oh, it was because that monster drew that thing. That's why we lost. You're like, well, yeah, okay. Maybe it was the 100 decisions that the players made leading up to that was the reason you lost. And so I think like, yeah, you could be like, oh, well, we lost because I didn't I didn't chose to do my battle goal rather than not. But I think it was justified in saying it's like, well, no, we lost it because of how we all played.
Yeah, if the whole thing was recorded, you could sit there and nitpick every single round and why someone went one extra hex over, or why they chose to do a long rest instead of a short rest. Yeah, you're right. You can multiply that in so many ways, and I can see some people doing that. That'll be great. Is your group does your group have anyone like this where they will throw a scenario? I want to know, how do you deal with, I don't know, selfish play? Someone who just is known for being the loot guy and no one ever gets any loot because this person's all over it and they're playing, they bring all their loot cards. I want to kind of hear these things and how people are dealing with it and how they're addressing it. And then, we'll reconvene next week and then I can tell the guys how to not do that.
Hey, Pilfer's just a really good card.
Pilfer. Cling clang. All right, we will wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us for another episode of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. We will take on scenario 3 next week. Let's keep the momentum up. Where win, lose, win. So
no. We're starting a pattern. It's a different pattern. It goes win, lose, win, 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 lose.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the one where I keep my battle goal.
Yeah, that's right.
Hopefully it's another really good playthrough and hopefully it's another good video. But thank you again for tuning in. I have been your host, Eddie, and I've been joining my guests.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, it's all